Chapter 3, Molecules, Compounds, and Chemical Equations. How many different substances exist? Do you think this is a question that could even be answered? Probably not. So what are substances formed from? Well, they're formed from elements. We've got 91 different elements, give or take. They can combine in different ways, different numbers of atoms of each element, different numbers of elements, period. In a compound, you have a compound of 2 elements or of 5 elements. The combinations are pretty much limitless. So we have this huge diversity of substances, and that is the direct result of the ability of elements to combine in different ways to form compounds. Let's look at 3 elements. Well, 2 elements in a compound: hydrogen, oxygen, and water. We are familiar with oxygen. We know that it's in the air and that we need to breathe oxygen to live. The boiling point of oxygen is minus 183 degrees Celsius, much below room temperature. So it's a gas at room temperature. And it is the gas that's necessary for combustion. In order for something to burn, there must be oxygen present. Hydrogen is also a gas at room temperature. It boils at an even lower temperature. Hydrogen is explosive. You've heard of the Hindenburg, right? Large blimp dirigible filled with hydrogen, came across from Germany, I think, was just landing in the United States, and kaboom, right? The whole thing went up in flames. Horrendous thing. Hydrogen's explosive. So you get hydrogen and oxygen together, it's very flammable. If we take hydrogen and oxygen, though, and combine them into water, we get something that's a liquid at room temperature. The boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius, much above room temperature. And water is not flammable. In fact, we use it to extinguish fire. So we take 2 elements, we put them together, their properties change significantly, right? When we combine 2 or more elements to form a compound, we get an entirely new substance forming. It's not just a mixture, it's a brand new substance. And the properties are very different. And we see patterns like this whenever elements combine to form a compound. Definite proportion. Okay, we talked about this when we were talking about atomic theory. Definite proportion, the law of definite proportion says that 2 elements combine in the same ratio by mass. If we look at a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, you can have varying proportions of oxygen and hydrogen gas. You could have 50-50 or 20-80 or any of the different combinations. But water always has the same ratio. I don't remember the numbers by mass, but when we look at the individual particles, a water molecule is always 2 hydrogen atoms for 1 oxygen atom. Always the same, and so we say that water has a definite proportion. This is a characteristic of a compound. So, illustration, mixture, we can have lots of different combinations of hydrogen and oxygen ratios, and this mixture is very flammable. In a compound, we have 1 ratio, 2 hydrogens to 1 oxygen every single time, and then this substance has a much different properties. So mixture versus compound.